Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Andrew Turner, founder and host of the G&T Sessions podcast. And today we have an amazing guest, Mr. Daniel Marcos. Hello, Daniel. How are you?
Hello, sir. Super happy to be talking to you in London with a picture of Toronto on the back.
Oh, you found me out straight away. Yes, behind me. For people that are obviously listening on Spotify, it might be a bit difficult, but actually, if you're on YouTube, you can see that over my right shoulder is the CN Tower.
Yeah, in Toronto. And I'm based in Toronto, and I'm talking with someone in London that has a background of Toronto. I thought that was awesome. The personalization is amazing.
Well, you see, the thing is, I don't know you may have sneakily heard to some of my previous episodes. You see, so actually, we have a special sponsored G&T. I've actually had a G&T sponsored Learjet to get to Toronto. It's obviously quite a long way from, but normally I use a helicopter. So there we are. And then actually, I'm sat obviously paddling in the boating lake because you can see some little kayaks over the shoulder as well.
Yes, I've been there and it's beautiful. Really worth it. Whenever you come to Toronto, you want to escape the city, go on those kayaks on the island. It's just priceless.
Yeah, but the problem is because us British, you see, because we don't like the sun too much. See, we like lobster. We like we strip off and put no suntan cream on, and then we get burnt.
Not me. I'm from Mexico. My dark skin, I don't get red.
Okay, you just go straight brown.
I go straight to brown. Yeah, my wife goes red. I go to brown.
Okay. So it's great to get you on the show. I know that you're here, there, and everywhere. Obviously, but not obviously traveling a lot at the moment. But I must admit that you must have the most impressive book repository or depository or bookshelf.
Yes.
Is it real, Daniel? That's the question.
Yes, it's real. So I like to touch it and usually get books and talk about the books, so they know they're real.
Ah, you see.
Yeah.
That was for people that are on Spotify. They cannot see this. That's Daniel picking books out of the shelf.
And by the way, I read most of it, most of them, probably 60-70% cover to cover, and the other ones just keep them. But yes, and by the way, so all of that. That's what I read since COVID started.
Oh wow! Okay. So we'll
talk about the future and what's happening.
You've run out of shelf space.
Yes, I did.
So I suppose to kick off the session, what gets you up in the morning these days?
Entrepreneurship. I two things. One is I really believe the only way for Latin America, and that's how I started in Mexico and Latin America, to get out of the crisis or any crisis, financial, it's through entrepreneurship. I believe I'm a capitalist at heart. I really believe the best way for human beings to progress is through entrepreneurship, to really build companies, build wealth, create value to the world. And the second thing,
make an impact.
Making an impact. Indeed, if you see my logo, it says scale impact, reduce drama, below Growth Institute. And that's what I believe gives entrepreneurs freedom. Most entrepreneurs, we become entrepreneurs because we want certain impact and certain freedom, and we become slaves of our companies. So we help companies be able to scale without drama or reducing the drama. We believe.
But when you say drama, though, is that drama for the entrepreneur, or is it for the company, or is it for the world, or just everything?
For everyone. So let me quickly kind of give you an example. Sometimes you go to a restaurant, everything is nice music, your food comes on time, it's hot, blah, blah. And sometimes you go to a restaurant and you hear the waiters shouting to each other, plates falling on the kitchen, your food comes cold. And
it's all that juggling in the kitchen, you see, that's what it is.
That's correct. That's how it feels. As a client, you know if they execute well or not.
Okay.
And that creates a lot of drama in the company. And that drama gets translated to the employees, the founders also, and that goes to your family. I've been an entrepreneur for 23 years now. And my wife many times has said, hey, I really wish you were just an employee, work 9 to 5, come with a paycheck, and that's it. I just can't. But that's reality. That creates a lot of drama.
That's interesting because I think what you're actually saying there, that's a really good way of articulating customer and employee experience. And home experience, family experience, I suppose, isn't it?
And we disregard how much that impacts our family. It's really a lot.
Mm. Interesting.
So
That's really succinct. I think that must have taken a bit of iteration, I presume, to get to that.
Indeed, Growth Institute, we've been in operation 8 years. We wrote that BHAG at year 4.
Wow.
Well, after 4 years of our BHAG before was give freedom to 1 million entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And then there were 2 things that we changed. One is what gives them freedom? 2 things. Scale their impact. Whatever they do it bigger and reduce the drama of the operation.
Yeah.
And then we changed from 1 million entrepreneurs to 10 million leaders. So we're now talking to the full team. We're not talking just the key founder
or the founders.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Correct.
Just like the leadership teams as well.
That's correct.
Wow.
So
hey, I want to know. You've gone from 1 million to 10 million.
That's correct.
So next is 100 million.
No.
Maybe a billion.
So based on our numbers and the growth today, we should get to 10 million leaders by 2040. So we still have 19 more years.
2040?
Yeah, 19 more years.
Wow.
Yeah. So today we've trained 50,000 executives from 10,000 different companies in 68 countries around the world today.
Wow.
So, and that's paid people. On the database and social media, we have a couple of million. But people that have really paid and
participated,
platform,
like kind of gone deep with you.
That's correct. At least 50,000.
That's amazing. And you've been doing this for 8 years.
8 years. I was a CEO coach before, and I was doing it one by one, and I wanted to increase my impact, do it bigger, and reduce my drama. I was flying 200,000 miles every year.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is take it online and then figure out a way to do it online that you could still have the same impact that we were having before.
Well, I suppose the thing is, as these countries are now closing their borders, that we don't have much option, do we?
Actually, COVID, and I sometimes feel guilty saying it, but COVID was very good for us. Not in our families. We've had all friends that have
of course, yeah.
But the business got a huge boost because of COVID.
Because you were already online anyway, is that right?
We were online. We were ready.
You were digital already. Yeah.
We were begging our clients to come online, and our clients said, "No, we'll pay you 3 times more, but you fly to my office." And I was
really, what you doing on site? You were doing on site.
Until 2019, I was doing a lot on site.
Wow.
I was pushing online, but I was still doing.
Because they wanted that kind of. So is that it's the Muhammad and the mountain? I suppose it's who's the Muhammad and who's the mountain.
So as an example, November 2019, I was hired by EO in South Asia, and I did a tour of EO in Bangladesh, India, and Sri Lanka, and gave like 20 talks in the region. Right. And I was there for over a month.
Wow.
And today I could give those 20 talks in the same week.
From your bookcase. Yeah, exactly.
That's correct. Of course, it's not the same. I visited the countries.
Had
dinner with them, had pictures with them and their family members and all that. So of course it's better. I'm not going to say that online is better. But you could do a lot of things online. As an example, I'll give you Scaling Up is our bestseller class, the one that we get the most companies enrolling. Every time we're on Scaling Up in English, we probably get 100, 120 companies going through the program. And we have all these community tools for them to interact.
Yeah.
And people said, hey, I've taken the class. I have a coach. I still go to the online class just to go through the experience implementing with 120 more companies.
Yeah.
And whenever I'm having an issue in a company in Detroit, I have a conversation with someone in India or someone in Singapore or someone in Ecuador, in Latin America, and how they implement and how it didn't work and how they rearrange or reachieve it to be able to redeploy it.
Well,
that's where I learned the most.
I was going to say that because that's where the diversity and inclusion and real you get other cultures looking through it from a different lens.
That's correct. And interestingly, in Mexico or Ecuador or Argentina, we're very similar culturally to India or to Southeast Asia in many things.
Okay.
As an example, the coaches that we have that serve, let's say, on the South Cone, Southeast Asia, where their way of implementing scaling up is very different from the ones that operate in the US, in England, in Germany. It's just, we're different. We have a lot of things that are similar. Like in Mexico, we grew up watching US television.
Right.
And we have a lot of the same common jokes and blah, blah, because we were in the same time zone and television stuff. But culturally, our family and history is more like India in many ways.
Wow.
So those kind of things impact the way you run your company, impact the culture in your company, and they find a lot of similarities.
That's interesting. The qualitative and the quantitative experience of that online, you could say, it's like a very diverse online swimming pool.
That's correct. And people love it. They said, I could not achieve this with a coach just in my company. Just to be able to feel it and hear it and understand how it's happening in the rest of the company.
Well, also, if you're looking at growth, if I think about if you think about classic Ansoff matrix, remember that?
Yeah.
Like new, what is it? I don't know, new markets or new products or new customers, or existing. Yeah. If you look at internationalization and globalization, then the thing that you're enabling with the things you're doing at the Growth Institute is for managers that may be a domestic manager, they may have just operated in the US, and suddenly you're opening them up to the whole world and having to work across teams, from different cultures. Which my experience in the 90s when I was at GE was just like that. The diversity in GE, even though it was obviously run by Neutron Jack, God rest his soul. But you go to a workshop or you go to a bullet train program or you go on these different things, and they'd be from 10, 12, 15 different countries. So you got thrown into the swimming pool without any armbands, and then go and solve that problem.
And usually got with better results.
Usually got what?
Outcome. Yeah, it came with a better outcome usually.
Yes, it did. Yeah, because you got the quality of outcome, because you got it. People just have got different backgrounds and different experiences, so you just got correct. Completely better decisions, better quality.
So that's what happens in our classes. We've had people that take a class physically in a country, and then they come and take it online, and said it was way richer online, not just on the content, on the experience and diversity of implementing. As a quick example, in Latin America, we don't have a capital market as developed as the US or England or Europe. So if you grow a big company, it's very, very difficult to sell the company. So
it's more kind of family-owned kind of thing.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So you get really, really, really big family businesses in Latin America and India that you don't get in the US. You rarely see them in the US running like that. And the amount of cousins and friends working in the company and spouses.
Right.
And whenever I go to India or I go to Thailandia or Thailand or whatever, it's very similar. It's very, very similar.
And it's like multiple generations of a family will be in the business as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I mean, obviously so thanks for explaining a bit about what Growth Institute does. And I'm sure people, at the end, we'll obviously go through how to get more information about that. But you obviously that's not the first type of thing you did. Could you just give us a bit of an idea to the audience about what your life before Growth Institute, life before you incubated and gave birth to Growth Institute?
I was born and raised in Mexico. I was born in Monterrey, Mexico, raised Mexico City. And since I was a kid, indeed, I tell the story a lot. When I was around 8 or 9 years old, I was spending Christmas in a ranch of an uncle. And we were all these cousins and uncles and everyone. We were probably 50 of us in this ranch spending all Christmas together.
Oh, fantastic.
And I remember the 25th.
That must have been a bit crazy.
A lot of fun. So we are from big families. We are all Arab descent in Mexico many, many years. Even my grandparents were born in Mexico. But we have very big families. That's kind of our tradition.
I don't know how that happens, Daniel. How does it happen?
Sorry? How does it happen? So we're there like 50 of us. And my father, just after we opened the presents in Christmas morning, I see my father dressed like with a suit and everything. And I was like, Dad, what's going on?
Mm.
I said, well, my boss called me. I have to go back to Mexico. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, yeah, my boss has a problem. I need to go back and fix something. And I was like, Dad, it's Christmas Day. And he said, I'm sorry. So I remember I was really mad. And I went and cried with my mom and everything. And I told her, like, it's Christmas. Why is the boss such a hard guy, right?
Such not a family guy. Yeah.
That's right. My father at this moment used to work for government, very high in Mexican government.
Okay.
And there was this emergency that he had to deal with. And I remember that I asked my mom, hey, why my uncles are here? And my mom said, well, your uncles are entrepreneurs and they own their own businesses and they could
make their own decisions.
And I was like, what's the difference? I still.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Yeah. Because you come from such a pure question. Yeah.
That's correct. You never realize there's two types of work of your parents or the old people until you get to a position like that. And I was like, can you do that? And my mom's like, yeah. So that's kind of how I realized there was a difference. And then I travel and work around the world. I was in London, as explained, 8 months working in Lloyd's. I worked in Hong Kong for 2 years in the Mexican consulate, where the handover was from England to China. I was there.
With you were there when Mr. Patton was
everything. When Patton got into
outside saying, but that was exciting. Yeah.
And we were all, by the way, we're all saying bye-bye to the daughters. Had two beautiful daughters. And all the single guys in Hong Kong were all sad, saying goodbye to the girls. It was a very historic moment. I was there. It was World Bank meeting. It was a big thing. So it was a great learning experience. And then I've done my MBA in Babson. So I travel.
Babson College, where Tom Davenport is.
Yeah. So when I was in college, I worked in a brokerage house for 3 years. So I was a trader in the market. So I learned a lot about finance and a lot about trading.
Right.
And then when I graduated, I went to Hong Kong for 2 years. And when I was in Hong Kong was the internet boom. And I was seeing all
this is like 99, 2000, was it?
Yeah, correct. I was seeing all the billionaires or whatever.
The dot-com billionaires and busts.
That's right. And I said, I need to do a company and I need to resign now. So after 2 years in Hong Kong, I went back to Mexico and opened the first fintech in the country called Finanzas Web.
Fantastic.
I was the first one that put the stock trades and financial information online in Mexico.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Connected.
That's a bit wild, that is, Daniel.
Wow. No, it was wild.
It was like the dial-up modems.
No, you're laughing about it. We had a 64K to our office.
You were 64K. Yeah, that's luxury.
And we had in our office, we had our servers behind the 64K for people to access our website. So we built the first fintech. I had a competitor in Argentina that he had already raised $8 million called Patagon, and they had Argentina, Chile, and Venezuela open.
Okay.
And they went to JP Morgan and said, hey, we're the leaders in Latin America. Give us a big round. We want to dominate Latin America. And JP Morgan said, hey, love your idea, love the story, love the drive. But you could not say you're the leaders of Latin America if you don't have Mexico and Brazil. Mexico and Brazil are by far the big players, the big dogs of Latin America. So said, go and open operations in Mexico and Brazil and call me back. So that day I got a call from Argentina saying, you're the only one in the market. We want to acquire you. And they acquired.
Oh, really? All right.
And they acquire the biggest player in Brazil at the moment. Next Monday, we're on a plane to New York and said, okay, now we're in Latin America. Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, and Venezuela. Give us money. We raised a $53 million round back in 1999 with Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan,
all the big boys,
Intel, Microsoft. Like, you couldn't ask for a better round. It was
like who's who.
It was an amazing round. And we grew significantly. 1,200 employees, opened 3 banks, 5 brokerage houses, 1,200 employees. It was a big thing. And then we sold it to Santander, Spanish bank.
Okay.
We were the second biggest internet company in Latin America back then in the internet boom.
And how old were you when you were doing that?
Between 25. So I built it when I was like 24, 25. and sold it when I was like 29. So
Wow.
it was the typical.
That sounds a bit wild, Daniel.
And in Mexico, it like if you do that in Silicon Valley, it's hard. Doing it in Mexico, Argentina, it's like you can't imagine.
No.
It's
what would you call it? I mean, do you know like Silicon Valley and then like the Silicon Beach in Israel?
No, Mexico.
The Silicon Roundabout in London. Well, what do you have? What would you call it in Mexico?
We still don't have a name like that. But hey, in Mexico, back then there was no venture capital funds. When I started, there was no venture capital funds in the country. Today,
so it was all getting funding from the US, basically.
That's correct. Today, there's probably 200 venture capital in Mexico. It's like if you see the amount of venture funding in the country today, it's just.
But is a quick question on that? Is that American VCs moving into Mexico, or is that Mexican VCs?
We probably 75% are Mexican VCs, and then 25 are foreign VCs in the country.
Okay.
So, but the amount of friends of mine that I went to college or high school with,
who are now VCs,
it's crazy. It's like 20. Yeah. If you see Latin America today, how developed is talking, let's say financially or technologically speaking, to create tech companies. It's an amazing thing today. Well, you see Mercado Libre. Mercado Libre is the eBay in Latin America. Mm-hmm. It's worth over $60 billion. It's crazy.
What's the telco? The guy that's
Carlos Slim.
Yeah,
he's worth. Mercado Libre is worth more than Slim's company, telephone company today. Meli, that is the stock. Indeed, today, $92.35 billion. It's incredible.
I have to admit, actually, to you, Daniel, that I have never been to South America. Ever.
Oh, you can't imagine how beautiful place you're missing.
But in 2022, which is not too far away, so I've got an offer from my very good friend Alejandro Caminero, who's from Buenos Aires, he's been a guest on the show as well, and he spent a number of years at a small retailer called Amazon.
In Argentina.
No. Actually, he ran Europe. He set up quite a big bit of Amazon and AWS in Europe. And,
the ecosystem of tech companies in Argentina, it's incredibly strong. Incredibly strong. Patagon came from Argentina. Mercado Libre came from Argentina. Like a lot of the big.
Oh, is it? Okay. So this is the thing. So he's offered to take me on a tour of South America in 2022 because it will be 20 years exactly we've known each other. So. We'll pop by. We'll pick you up in Toronto and take you down to Mexico, and
I would love to do that.
It's like a road trip.
Like you don't understand how far Argentina is from Toronto, right?
No, I know. I'm joking.
Like no. But so Toronto from London, we're like a 6-hour flight. Toronto to Buenos Aires is like a 19-hour flight. It's long. We see Europe and the US and.
But if you got some tequila, you're okay.
Yeah, of course. No, I've done the flight several times, and you sleep well, and then you work a little bit.
I'm going to say you knock you out.
Yeah. So Latin America, it's in a boom today in technology compared to then, but that was back then.
That's amazing. I mean, it's amazing how you actually been. You've been through some interesting phases because you worked in a few corporates and then went into government and also then went into entrepreneurship and did M&A. I mean, before you were 30. That's amazing.
We were very lucky. We learned very, very fast. And we got a
not as fast as your modem. Not as fast as your modem.
If you see my website back then, it's like compared to today, and it cost us millions of dollars to build our first website. Indeed, one of the big mistakes we had, we hired IBM and Price Warehouse to help us build a software for our banking system.
I don't want to look at those invoices.
We spent $36 million. It didn't work. We were never able to turn it on.
$36 million on what?
And we were never able to turn
on the website.
Yeah. It cost us 36 and it never worked. We were never able to do a transaction with it, with 36 million behind it. And of course, a year and a half of work, probably 50-hour programmers full time. It was crazy back then.
Did your CFO, did he cry in the board meetings?
A couple of CFOs were fired.
I can imagine. We're slightly off schedule. How much have you overspent by? A few 10 million. Wow. Okay. So in terms of, I mean, thanks for giving us a bit about your origin story. I mean, in terms of the, we talk about peaks and valleys.
Yep.
So what would be some examples on that roller coaster ride of some peaks and valleys that you would want to share?
In answer, where Patagon, huge peak. Before 30, sold a company. I was on top of the world, no kids, just married. By the way, I took a couple of years off, and I did a round the world tour with my wife and had a good life. And then I went to Texas, to the US. I want to prove myself as an entrepreneur in the US and build a subprime mortgage bank to serve undocumented Hispanics. I was just giving loans to undocumented Hispanics. And you have to understand.
What time was that? Was that like in the 2000s?
2004 to 2007.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So if you want to talk about the valley, that's a valley. Like I lost everything that I got on the first one, lost it all, and ended up with $1 million in debt. After that, it was really painful. I made a lot of mistakes, and my company was weak when the mortgage crisis came, and I was destroyed. 120 employees, fired everyone the same week. It was tough. But it took me a couple of years just to come back mentally. Be prepared.
I can imagine.
It was a big one. And then I became a CEO coach with Vern Harnish, and very interesting. So that on itself has a lot of stories, and we could spend 2 hours talking about what happened. But I got 3 phone calls that really changed my life then. And one of them was Vern Harnish, that is my partner today, the author of Scaling Up, and he is the founder of EO. And I hired Vern to coach me before. So Vern was my mentor and my coach in the first company. And he called me and said, "Hey, you should become a coach." And I was like, "No way, I cannot trust myself as an entrepreneur. How do you want me to coach someone else?" And here's what created Growth Institute. He said, "That's precisely why. You went through such a hard time.
Yeah,
they have to make sure it never happens again."
Right.
And I told him, "Hey, people are not going to hire me because I'm a failure as an entrepreneur." And he said, "You believe me."
But the learning was incredible,
and the learning behind just coming up, and the changes I've been able to help entrepreneurs do, it's remarkable. I presume I surprise myself what happens.
You could probably, I don't know, ask a quick question. Can you spot, when they say things or they behave in a certain way, can you relate to that? You 100%. Go, that was me that year and that time.
And I explained to them how I was feeling, and they were like, "I'm thinking exactly the same thing."
Yes, exactly. It's funny, Daniel. It's funny you say that, because that's exactly. I mean, obviously, the benefit I've got is I'm the host today. Maybe if I come on your podcast at some point, if you.
By the way, I host the podcast of EO, but it's in Spanish. So whenever you learn Spanish,
I've got to learn Spanish before I come on the show. That's not bad. But yeah, that example there, because a lot of the people that I'm working with, CEOs I'm working with as well, I'm advising in kind of coaching as well, is that's exactly what I feel as well, because I go back into my treasure chest. Well, maybe it's not treasure, but it's experience chest.
Yeah.
And you go, aha, this is going to happen, and they go, no, it's not, and they go, yes, it is, and it does.
And by the way, after that, the change you could do once you uncover a couple of rocks like that is just amazing. The change that could happen.
It's very fulfilling. Don't you find it fulfilling?
I love it. I'm do online, but I still do a lot of CEO coaching, direct coaching.
Yeah,
and it's just fulfilling, really, really fulfilling, and I love it. it takes a lot of time, the travel and but it's just what you can do and the results.
It's wholesome. It makes you feel whole, doesn't it?
Yes, correct. It's just amazing.
It's not about the money. It's about the connection. So
today I have three coaching calls, 1 hour CEO coach calls today. So I still do a lot of coaching yet, still, and I don't want to stop doing it because it gives me a lot of value and I help a lot of entrepreneurs and keeps me fresh. Instead of
keeps you current. Yeah, it keeps you really engaged with what's going on.
So I always keep 3 or 4 clients that I coach directly, and that helps me a lot stay fresh and current and all that. Yeah. But I'm able to help fewer entrepreneurs make very deep changes.
Yeah, because it's that thing, I don't know if you could probably, I don't know if you relate to this, it's this kind of IQ and EQ dimension.
Yep. Correct.
So, you may be you may be off the chart on the IQ, but then as you know, being an entrepreneur and being a leader, it's not always the best index to be the highest on. When if your other index is not performing at the same level.
and we're able to relate to each other based on where we are and be able to go through it mentally together. Entrepreneurs usually feel very lonely.
Yeah.
Because they feel they're the only ones at the top and the only ones having to take the decision. I have a phrase that is very lonely at the top. And it's very lonely. So we're able to relate and go through it together. And by the way, I am a CEO coach, but I'm also an entrepreneur. In March, my revenue went down. The last 2 weeks of March, my revenue was down 90%.
Wow.
And I had to go through a rough process, fire a couple of employees, lower some salaries. Like I went through it, like my client.
To recalibrate, yeah.
That's correct. And I believe the combination is the right thing. I'm a CEO coach. I run a company myself and stuff. So I feel it and go through the same roller coaster that my clients are.
Yes. It's like, hold on, we're going, woo!
Exactly.
So in terms of technology, so we talked about G and we talked about T on the G and T, Gin and Tonic, Growth and Technology podcast. And what's your view on technology? What's your take on digital and all that kind of stuff these days? What has your mind shifted in the last 12, 15 months?
Andreessen Horowitz.
Yeah. Mark Andreessen. Yeah. Ben Horowitz. Very good.
If you see their ad, their logo, it's their AC16. That is the amount of digits between A and Z, Andreessen Horowitz. AC16. And below says there's a phrase. I think it's the best phrase that describes what's happening in the world. And it says, software is eating the world.
Yeah.
It's just brilliant.
Yes.
What they said. I really believe that's what's happening. I've heard in other podcasts, they have another question about the future. But here's kind of what I'm seeing. Yes, software is eating the world. Everything that can be digitalized is going to be digitalized. I don't know if you've seen Peter Diamandis' 6 Ds. Peter Diamandis is the founder of Singularity.
Peter Diamandis, Singularity University.
He has this thing he calls the 6D, that all technologies go from decentralized whatever to digital, and then all this.
Oh, like the kind of stages. Yeah.
That's correct. It's brilliant, his research on the 6 Ds. And that's how everything is getting digitalized. I think that's the way we're going to go into the world. We're going to pay a premium, and there's still going to be all the physical and all that, but it's going to be in a premium. We're going to go to a more digital world in everything we do.
It's been like a kind of like an electric shock to the world, hasn't it? This whole thing.
I think COVID, it's really an accelerator of what it was already happening.
Yeah,
it's just accelerated much faster.
Yeah, it's like no more procrastination in the boardroom. We do have to make a decision this month.
And I was explaining earlier, I told my clients, one of the best things that happened in COVID, one of the positive things, is that all of you got used to online education. Like, I was begging for them to try it, and no one.
You were going, please use it, please use it. Yeah.
And today they said, "Hey, this is great." And I was like, "I've been begging for 8 years." Like, now you're
ahead, you see, you're ahead of your time as per you see, you're showing all these examples, Danny. You're ahead of your time.
Yeah. So I really believe software and technology is going to run a lot of our lives. And I think there's going to be a piece of our world we're going to pay a really big premium not to be connected, not to be digitized. But
you see, do you know something about that? You know what Tim Berners-Lee is working on, don't you?
No, what is Tim Berners-Lee working on?
You see. Well, you see, if you check out a website called inrupt.com.
Inrupt.com?
Inrupt, INRUPT.com.
Okay.
So what he's basically doing is building a new, apparently it's like a second generation internet, where you can have your own server and you can then basically have your data on your own server, on your own node on the internet, and you can then decide who has access to that.
Oh, wow.
Yes, wow, exactly. Wow.
That guy is brilliant.
I know. See, another British brilliant person.
He's brilliant. He's brilliant.
So yeah, so that's something I only found out about last week from one of my friends.
And I really believe people are going to pay a premium for that.
Well, yeah. Yes, I think because of all this thing that's been happening, with the social dilemma, the Agfa boys or Fang or whatever you want to call the tech titans, Scott Galloway's favorite people. So yeah, it's I think it's going to be interesting in the next decade. So in terms of you and your world, what's getting you really excited at the moment? What's really getting you excited?
So I and there's a lot of negative things about software and everything, but there's a lot of positive things. And I really believe technology equalizes the world, right? You could, like, YouTube is
democratization,
an amazing way to democratize education and knowledge. In education, as an example, a lot of people are doing videos of education. We have a video component, but it's probably 20% of our education. You have to have forums and masterminds and coaching, and there's a lot of things that we do in our classes that is not just video. And I tell people, hey, I want something cheaper. And I was like, you want cheaper? Go to YouTube. It's free. And it's amazing. Like,
the content on there.
I probably spend half hour at least in YouTube every day learning. It has brilliant content. So I really believe it's going to be an equalizer of knowledge around the world. And we've been surprised that we get executives from very small towns in very small countries, and they're learning with people all over the world, and their development and knowledge is brilliant. It's just brilliant. So I think all the software and everything.
So it's a level. So what you're saying? It's a leveler. It's a leveler.
A leveler. That's correct. So, and by the way, we've been fighting against this thing about the 1% and the poorest people, that the wide is too big.
The K-shaped economy. Yeah.
I think the wider is going to get way wider. But the bottom group are going to go to a level of a much better quality life and a more balanced income of survival. So
you mean like the unbanked and the underbanked? You mean
if like in Latin America? Give you a quick example. My sister works for a one of these fintech companies that gives loans of $200-300 or whatever. Right. They're in the US. They're based in Los Angeles, and they're giving like 200,000 loans a month.
Right.
We never had that. They don't have no physical office. Everything is online. Like, it's crazy, and they have that impact. Imagine what you could do, right? So I really believe that this is going to be a great equalizer.
But it also kind of, to his point about leveling, it kind of levels the world, and it collapses the world, doesn't it? Because your Los Angeles to Buenos Aires or South America example it's not, you don't have to do a physical telephone call or go and walk to them.
By the way, it's interesting. My sister is based in Los Angeles, and she has 2 countries that she's in charge of all the analysis and running all the algorithms and everything. Mexico and Nigeria, I think. And I was like, whoa, what? Like, it has nothing to do with one of each other, right? I said, well, that's what they assigned me. So you have someone in Los Angeles running the analysis and the all the loans and who do you approve and everything from Los Angeles for a country in Latin America and a country in Africa. And I was, it makes no sense, but that's how it works, and it works.
Well, it's also interesting. I don't know if you saw the demographic from the company that does all the data analysis. That they showed that actually the population switch by 2030 or 2040, where effectively the Chinese population is decreasing, and then actually India and Nigeria become like the number two, number three. It's amazing. It's amazing the switch you can see over time.
I've been to India and China. In 2019, I went to both India and China. I think China is going to have a lot of more social issues that will stop their growth compared to India. And by the way, here's my next part that I think is going to be in the future. And yes, we have a globalization and all of these things getting together, but now we have a geopolitical challenge. The U.S. created this new world order in the 40s after the Second World War.
Yes,
and he told everyone, "Hey, if you trade in U.S. dollars, I will be the police of the world, and I will navigate the world oceans and make sure your cargoes are safe."
Yes,
but you have to, and that I will give you access to the biggest market in the world, that is the U.S. But you have to trade in U.S. dollars. And everyone said, "I'm in," right? And that's why the U.S. dollar is the currency of the world.
Yeah.
Now we're going to have a divide. Now you have a second really, really big power. Today, China and the U.S. are the two polars of the world. And countries will have to align with one or the other. Google used to own like 30% of the market in China. Today, it's almost zero. There's no one goes into Google from China. It's just non-existent.
Google, you said? Google,
yes.
Right.
Yeah. No one from China goes to Google and searches for things. So I really believe we're going to divide the world.
It's going to be like chopping it in two. Yeah.
I've been saying this for over a year. The peak of globalization was 2019. I don't think, at least 2030, we will not have such a global world like the one we had in 2019. Now you're going to need vaccine passports to go to certain countries.
Exactly.
That you didn't to work before. And there's going to be certain countries that are going to be aligned to China and not to the US. And there's going to be all this divide.
Yeah, segregation. And you know what it made me think of when you were just talking about that? It reminded me, Tinder. Like swipe left or swipe right.
That's going to be...
So be like swipe left for USA, swipe right for China.
So I'll give you a quick example.
Swipe up for Russia.
I was in Sri Lanka giving a lecture 2019. And we were having dinner in this restaurant in a hotel in the beach. And we were at night after the lecture, and there was this light, a lot of light coming through from an area. And so like, what's that? There's a lot of light. And they said, that's a new port. And I was like, wow, that's a really big port. And one of these guys said, well, we're very strategically located. And I was like, I'm sorry, you're not strategically located. Like, you're very far in the world. And the guy said, no, if you understand the Silk Road of China, they have two Silk Roads, the one from the south, because China and India hate themselves. China want to have in the middle of the ocean a place where they could have a port. And Sri Lanka is strategically very, very important to China.
Interesting.
So China went and bought, like they lease Hong Kong, England from China.
Yeah.
China has done exactly the same thing in Sri Lanka with a port leased for 99 years. And they're going to build a city like Hong Kong Island in Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka is gone. Sri Lanka is going to be a Chinese ally compared to India. That India, it's a U.S. ally.
Yeah.
So
there's all these plays. It's like a chess game, isn't it? So they're all making these plays. Yeah.
So think about, like, China has been brilliant strategically. They say, okay, where around India can we dominate, that we have a very important port that could link our Silk Road? And they went to Sri Lanka. But they didn't say, hey, now we're going to own Sri Lanka. They went to Sri Lanka and said, do you want loans? We'll give you all these loans. They gave billions of dollars of loans. Sri Lanka could not pay for the loans back and said, don't worry.
Okay. We'll come back to you later. Yeah.
And now they own the port for 99 years.
Wow.
So now Sri Lanka is China, or China ally. And by the way, Africa, I've been having conversations with people in Africa, and they said, in Africa, China already won.
They bought all the minerals. So they bought all the.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. While the US is having all these political issues and all
they're going clearing up all the different mineral deposits.
China took control of that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, if you see what's happening with the US, the Fed, the US Fed, signed 14 what they call swap lines with 14 central banks around the world. England being one of them, Mexico being the other. That whenever there's a pressure of US dollars in the country, our currency devaluate against the US dollar. Our currency is not devaluating. So when COVID started, we were on $20 per peso per dollar.
Right.
It went to almost 25.
Wow.
Now we're below 20. I was like, why? Well, there's a swap line. And when the country there's a pressure of dollars, the Fed injects dollars.
Yeah, exactly. Printing. Yeah.
So now we have the US central bank operating a central bank in 14 other countries. So if you want to follow who are going to be the allies of the US, follow them on.
Anyway, the only thing I'd say on that is that just let's see what happens with the crypto world and decentralization. But that could be a whole episode in its own right.
I'm a big fan of Bitcoin, but I am not a big fan of politics. So I think the political environment's going to
heat up
somewhere.
I understand.
In the 50s or whatever, they took control of gold. It was illegal to own gold. I think it's going to be something very similar. If they begin to lose control of currencies really, really fast, they're going to do something.
Yeah.
I think we're still far away from that, by the way.
I hope so. Anyways, so to finish off today's episode, because I know we've had a pretty intensive session, which has been really good. I feel like we've flown around the world actually together.
Yep. Now we're going to go to Argentina.
Yeah, exactly, in 2022.
Yeah.
In terms of, so one of the things that we ask about to give to our audience is kind of what we call the pearls of wisdom or takeaways. What would be, what springs to mind in that kind of area for you?
So scaling a company is hard. Scaling a company and with less drama, it's even harder. But we've seen a lot of companies that scale and reduce the drama, and they really enjoy the ride. Scaling a company should be about enjoying the ride.
Yeah.
So don't think that the only way to scale a company is with a lot of pain, a lot of drama. There's many ways to do it.
Enjoy the journey.
If you understand and you do the right things in the right moment, you will enjoy the journey. So that's really, really important. I really believe that geopolitical changes in the world, in at least the next 10 years, I believe capitalism, the way we invented capitalism, expired already. We have to invent a new capitalism. And a new globalism. And it's going to be redefined in the next 10 years. The ones that really understand and study it are going to be able to play this chess game more strategical and usually come on top. So I really believe that entrepreneurs, if we want to be global entrepreneurs and really have a big international business, we have to be able to understand it.
To read the chess game. Yeah.
That's correct. And the game is changing dramatically. There's a book that I strongly recommend that you read called The Fourth Turning.
What's it called? The Fourth Turning?
The Fourth Turning.
Okay.
There's a lot of social cycles in the world that are all getting to today, like changing between 23 and 25. There's a death cycle. There's a social cycle. Like the Fourth Turning, they talk about what they call this. The Fourth Turning is winter. As the world, as a society, we are in the fourth turning in winter, and we're not allowing winter to come.
Right.
And it's like the TV series said, winter is coming, and we try to operate like we're in summer and we're growing.
Okay. Yeah.
Population is peaking. The amount of people getting older and getting out of the economic.
The whole characteristics are changing. Yeah.
And these 10 years are going to be a really, really big change, and the world is going to reorder in the next 10 years. I really, really believe that you have to study it and you have to understand what's going to happen to be able to take better strategic decisions in your business. And just finishing with what I started earlier, software is eating the world. The ones that accept that are going to do much better. And that's going to be a great equalizer of the world. The bottom part of the population is going to go higher, where income is not going to be a problem. All these survival things that we have will not be a problem. And that will give us the base for the next level.
Well, that's a good way to finish on a positive note.
I think it's an amazing time to be an entrepreneur. Like, I have a friend he's a 25-year-old guy from Canada, living in Bali and having a very successful company. And it's like, you could do whatever you want from anywhere in the world with a computer. Like,
well, just think about your daughter who's 15. My son's 15. My youngest son is 15. My oldest son is 17. Just think about their next 10 years, what they're going to see as well as we experience as well. I mean, it's going to be amazing.
It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be complicated in many ways. The pandemic, there's going to be a lot of changes. That my daughter sometimes said, hey, it's not fair that when you were 15, you were traveling, backpacking all over the world. And I am locked down in my room because of COVID, right? So there's some negative things, but there's some very, very positive things. Like, I couldn't be with my friends and sharing videos and talking and everything with my phone all the time. Like, she has that connection.
Yeah, exactly. So just to finally finish off is so for people who listen to this episode and they want to know more about, Daniel's world. So where do people go to find more information? Because it sounds like you're working on some really exciting and fascinating stuff.
So Growth Institute, it's our company, growthinstitute.com. Social media, if you just put my name in any social network, I'm there, or Growth Institute. And I would love if you could put a link. We have a tool to spot trends. We really believe the entrepreneurs understand trends are very important. I'll give you a link that you could put below the podcast. You can download a form that we have, how to spot trends.
Fantastic.
And that will give them a lot of view on what we do, and we'll help them spot the right trends to take the company in the right direction.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Daniel, for today's session. It's been really good. Really, really
it's been amazing. Thank you very much, Andrew. Really, really enjoyed it. And I look forward when you pick me up to go to Argentina in 2020.
Exactly. We'll in the helicopter. Yeah, that's right.
Argentina is the capital in Latin America that I enjoy the most, Buenos Aires.
I'll definitely tell that to Alejandro.
Restaurant, party, and all that. So, love to go to Argentina.
It's a date. Don't worry. We'll sort it out. Okay.
Thank you, amigo. Thank you for the interview.
Take care. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.